Breaking. Russia launches surprise multi-front offensive, catching US forces off guard. Those are not just words, they are the signal of a rapidly shifting global reality. What began as a tense standoff has now erupted into a complex, high-stakes confrontation unfolding across land, air and sea, with unprecedented speed. Tonight, every second carries weight, every movement is being watched, and every decision could redefine the balance of power, from disrupted naval systems to contested sea routes, from hypersonic threats to urgent Pentagon reviews. This is not just escalation, this is transformation in real time, and the world is now locked into a moment that could reshape modern warfare as we know it. Russia launches surprise multi-front offensive, catching US forces off guard. In a stunning and highly coordinated escalation, Russian military forces have launched a surprise multi-front offensive that has rapidly altered the dynamics of the ongoing conflict. The operation, described by analysts as both calculated and relentless, unfolded across land, air and sea, with near-simultaneous precision, leaving US and allied forces struggling to assess the full scope of the attack in real time. Intelligence sources suggest that the offensive had been meticulously planned over an extended period, utilizing deception tactics, cyber interference, and strategic misdirection to conceal its scale and timing. Reports indicate that Russian ground units advanced along multiple axes, targeting key logistical corridors and forward operating bases. These movements were supported by a barrage of long-range missile strikes aimed at crippling infrastructure and limiting response capabilities. Satellite imagery reveals significant troop mobilization in previously quiet sectors, raising questions about how such large-scale preparations evaded early detection. Military observers believe that the element of surprise played a decisive role in the initial success of the operation, allowing Russian forces to establish momentum before a coordinated defense could be mounted. Simultaneously, Russian air power intensified its presence, conducting precision strikes against strategic assets while deploying advanced fighter jets equipped with cutting-edge avionics. These aerial maneuvers not only provided cover for ground advances, but also challenged the air superiority that US forces have long maintained in similar conflicts. Early battlefield reports suggest that electronic countermeasures were used extensively, disrupting radar systems and delaying response times. At sea, Russian naval units moved aggressively into contested waters, signaling a clear intent to expand the operational theater. Warships equipped with long-range strike capabilities were positioned in ways that threatened critical maritime routes, complicating US naval strategy. The sudden convergence of land, air and naval offensives created a complex battlefield environment that has proven difficult to manage, even for seasoned commanders. Defense officials are now working urgently to reassess intelligence gaps and operational readiness as the scale of the offensive continues to unfold. Analysts warn that this marks a significant shift in modern warfare tactics, where speed, coordination, and technological disruption are prioritized to achieve immediate strategic advantages. The unexpected nature of the assault has triggered widespread concern among allied nations, many of whom are now re-evaluating their own defensive postures in light of the rapidly evolving situation. US Navy communications disrupted by advanced Russian electronic warfare. In a deeply concerning development, US Navy operations have been significantly impacted by what experts describe as a sophisticated and highly effective Russian electronic warfare campaign. During critical phases of recent military activity, multiple naval units reportedly experienced disruptions in communication systems, navigation controls, and real-time data sharing, severely limiting their operational effectiveness in contested waters. According to defense sources, the interference appeared to originate from advanced electronic warfare platforms capable of targeting multiple frequencies simultaneously. These systems are believed to employ powerful jamming techniques combined with cyber intrusion capabilities, creating a layered disruption that is difficult to counter using conventional methods. Sailors on affected vessels reported intermittent signal loss, delayed command transmissions, and inaccuracies in positioning systems, all of which contributed to heightened operational risk. The impact of these disruptions extended beyond simple communication breakdowns. Modern naval warfare relies heavily on integrated networks that connect ships, aircraft, and command centers into a unified system. By compromising these networks, the electronic assault effectively created moments of isolation among US units, reducing coordination and slowing response times during critical engagements. Analysts note that even brief lapses in connectivity can have significant consequences in high-intensity scenarios, where decisions must be made within seconds. Further complicating the situation, reports suggest that the electronic warfare measures were adaptive in nature, adjusting their frequencies and intensity in response to attempted countermeasures. This level of sophistication indicates a deep understanding of US naval systems and raises concerns about potential vulnerabilities that may not have been previously identified. Some experts believe that elements of artificial intelligence may have been integrated into these systems, enabling rapid adjustments and increasing their effectiveness against traditional defense protocols. The psychological impact on personnel has also been notable, as crews accustomed to highly reliable systems were forced to operate under uncertain conditions. Training protocols emphasize redundancy and resilience, but the scale and precision of the interference appear to have exceeded expectations. Emergency procedures were activated on several vessels as crews worked to restore partial functionality and maintain situational awareness. Military analysts are now emphasizing the growing importance of electronic dominance in modern conflict, suggesting that control of the electromagnetic spectrum is becoming as critical as control of land, air and sea. The incident underscores a broader shift in warfare, where battles are increasingly fought through invisible means that can disable advanced systems without direct physical confrontation. Strategic sea routes turn into conflict zones. After Russian naval deployment, strategic maritime corridors, once considered stable and essential for global trade, have rapidly transformed into high-risk conflict zones following the sudden deployment of Russian naval forces. The unexpected maneuver has triggered immediate concern among international shipping operators, defense officials, and allied governments, as heavily trafficked sea lanes now face heightened military presence and potential confrontation. According to early intelligence assessments, Russian warships equipped with advanced missile systems have taken up positions near critical choke points, effectively projecting power across vital shipping routes. These deployments appear to be part of a broader effort to assert control over key maritime regions, creating pressure points that could disrupt both military logistics and commercial operations. Analysts note that the positioning of these naval assets suggests a deliberate strategy aimed at influencing global supply chains, while simultaneously complicating the operational flexibility opposing forces. Commercial vessels navigating through these areas have already begun reporting increased military activity, including aerial patrols, naval escorts, and electronic monitoring. Several shipping companies are said to be rerouting vessels to avoid potential flashpoints, a move that could significantly increase transit times and operational costs. Insurance premiums for cargo shipments passing through affected waters have also surged, reflecting the growing perception of risk. Naval experts highlight that the transformation of these sea routes into contested zones introduces a new layer of unpredictability. Unlike traditional battlefields, maritime environments involve civilian and military traffic operating in close proximity, increasing the chances of miscalculation or unintended escalation. The presence of heavily armed warships in such areas raises the stakes considerably, particularly if rules of engagement are unclear or rapidly changing. US and allied naval forces are reportedly adjusting their patrol patterns in response, seeking to maintain freedom of navigation while avoiding direct confrontation. Surveillance operations have intensified, with reconnaissance assets closely monitoring Russian movements and attempting to map the extent of their operational reach. The situation remains fluid, with each new deployment or maneuver carrying the potential to further destabilize already tense conditions. Pentagon initiates emergency review following unexpected Russian entry. In response to the sudden and unanticipated escalation, the Pentagon has launched an emergency strategic review aimed at assessing the full implications of Russia's entry into the conflict. Senior defense officials convened under urgent circumstances to evaluate intelligence failures, operational readiness, and the immediate steps required to adapt to the rapidly shifting battlefield environment. Sources familiar with the situation indicate that the review process is both comprehensive and high priority, involving multiple branches of the military as well as intelligence agencies. Initial discussions are reportedly focused on identifying how such a large-scale military move was able to unfold with limited early warning. Questions are being raised about surveillance coverage, data interpretation, and whether critical indicators were missed or underestimated in the lead-up to the escalation. At the operational level, commanders are reassessing force posture and deployment strategies to ensure that US assets remain both protected and capable of responding effectively. This includes reviewing the positioning of naval fleets, air support units, and rapid response forces, as well as evaluating the resilience of communication and defense systems under increasingly complex conditions. The review is expected to lead to immediate adjustments in tactical planning, particularly in areas now considered high risk. Defense analysts suggest that the urgency of the review reflects the scale of the challenge posed by the new developments. The introduction of advanced technologies and coordinated multi-domain operations has created a scenario in which traditional assumptions about conflict response may no longer apply. As a result, military leadership is being forced to rethink established doctrines and consider alternative approaches that can better address emerging threats. The review also extends to coordination with allied nations, many of whom are seeking clarity on the evolving situation and the potential implications for collective security. Diplomatic channels remain active, But the focus within defense circles is firmly on preparedness and adaptability as the situation continues to evolve with little warning. Hypersonic threat looms as Russia expands military operations. The rapid expansion of Russian military operations has brought renewed attention to the growing threat posed by hypersonic weapons, a class of missiles capable of traveling at speeds exceeding Mach 5 while maintaining unpredictable flight paths. Defense officials and analysts are increasingly concerned that the deployment or potential use of such systems could dramatically alter the pace and nature of the conflict, leaving little time for detection or interception. Recent intelligence reports suggest that Russian forces have positioned hypersonic-capable platforms within operational range of key strategic targets, signaling a shift toward advanced deterrence and high-impact strike capability. These weapons, known for their ability to evade traditional missile defense systems, present a unique challenge to existing security frameworks. Unlike conventional ballistic missiles, hypersonic systems can maneuver mid-flight, making their trajectories difficult to track and predict. Military experts emphasize that even the possibility of their deployment creates a powerful psychological and strategic effect. Command structures must now account for near-instantaneous strike scenarios, where decision-making windows are compressed to mere minutes or even seconds. This has forced a re-evaluation of defensive readiness, particularly in naval and forward-deployed units that may be exposed to sudden high-speed attacks. The technological sophistication behind these systems reflects years of investment in next-generation weaponry, combining advanced propulsion, heat-resistant materials, and precision guidance systems. Analysts believe that their integration into active operations represents not just a tactical evolution, but a broader shift toward warfare defined by speed, precision, and reduced reaction time. As tensions escalate, surveillance and early warning systems are being pushed to their limits, with increased reliance on satellite tracking and real-time intelligence sharing. The presence of hypersonic threats in the operational environment introduces a level of uncertainty that complicates both offensive planning and defensive coordination, particularly in regions where multiple forces are operating in close proximity. U.S. carrier strike groups forced to reposition amid rising tensions. U.S. Navy carrier strike groups have been compelled to reposition in response to rapidly escalating tensions and shifting threat dynamics following recent Russian military movements. The decision, described by defense officials as both precautionary and strategic, reflects growing concerns over the safety and operational effectiveness of high-value naval assets in increasingly contested environments. According to sources within defense circles, the repositioning was prompted by a combination of factors, including heightened missile threats, expanded Russian naval presence, and the increased risk of electronic warfare interference. Carrier strike groups, which serve as the centerpiece of U.S. naval power projection, are now being maneuvered to locations that offer greater tactical advantage while reducing exposure to potential attacks. The movement of these groups is not a simple relocation, but a complex operation involving coordination across multiple domains. Aircraft carriers, accompanied by destroyers, cruisers, and support vessels, must maintain defensive formations while adapting to evolving intelligence inputs. This process requires constant communication and real-time adjustments, particularly as new threat information emerges. Analysts note that repositioning such significant assets signals a notable shift in operational posture. It suggests that commanders are prioritizing flexibility and survivability over static presence, recognizing that traditional deployment patterns may no longer be viable under current conditions. The changing environment demands a more dynamic approach, where mobility becomes a key of defense strategy. In addition to physical movement, the repositioning effort includes adjustments to air patrol patterns, surveillance coverage, and readiness levels. Fighter jets operating from carriers are being tasked with expanded reconnaissance missions, while support systems are being optimized to ensure rapid response capability. These measures are intended to maintain a balance between deterrence and risk management as the situation continues to evolve. The decision has also drawn attention from allied nations, many of whom rely on the presence of U.S. carrier groups as a stabilizing force in volatile regions. As these assets shift positions, questions are emerging about the broader implications for regional security and the potential need for coordinated responses among partner forces. Intelligence reports reveal pre-planned Russian war strategy. New intelligence disclosures indicate that Russia's military escalation was not spontaneous but the result of a deeply coordinated and pre-planned strategy developed over months. Classified assessments suggest synchronized troop movements, cyber operations, and logistical positioning were aligned to achieve maximum surprise. Analysts point to deliberate deception tactics that masked intent, while quietly building operational readiness across multiple domains. Catching opposing forces unprepared, global markets shake. As war escalation sparks energy crisis fears, global financial markets reacted sharply following the sudden escalation, with energy sectors experiencing immediate volatility. Oil and gas prices surged amid fears of supply disruptions tied to contested regions and strategic routes. Investors shifted towards safe haven assets as uncertainty spread across trading floors. Economists warn that prolonged instability could strain global supply chains, intensify inflation pressures, and trigger wider economic repercussions across multiple regions. NATO allies scramble to respond to Russia's sudden military move. NATO allies are moving rapidly to reassess defense positions following Russia's unexpected escalation, with emergency consultations underway among member states. Military readiness levels are being reviewed as forces consider potential deployments and reinforcement strategies. Officials are emphasizing unity while addressing gaps in preparedness, as intelligence sharing intensifies to track further developments and anticipate additional moves across multiple fronts. Diplomatic channels strain as superpowers edge closer to direct confrontation. Diplomatic efforts are facing mounting pressure as tensions rise between global powers, with urgent talks struggling to keep pace with fast-moving military developments. Back-channel communications remain active, but trust deficits and conflicting strategic interests are limiting progress. Observers warn that miscalculations could increase risks of direct confrontation as political leaders weigh responses amid growing uncertainty and escalating rhetoric. Across every domain, land advances, naval confrontations, electronic warfare disruptions, and rising global economic shockwaves. This unfolding crisis reveals a new era of conflict, driven by speed, precision, and unpredictability. Strategic sea routes have become pressure points, advanced weapons have shortened reaction times, and global alliances are being tested under intense strain. What stands clear is that the battlefield is no longer defined by geography alone, but by technology, timing, and the ability to adapt under pressure. As political tensions rise and military calculations grow increasingly complex,